Hello, listeners. Thank you once again for joining us for the Restart Recharge podcast. A quick note before we get started today. We had to rearrange the podcast schedule by a week, so our conversation with Susanna Summers will now be the next episode, which is set to air on August 24th. Thank you.
Hit the restart button. We're right there to recharge those batteries. We're here to help you. Restart, recharge. Restart, recharge.
Aloha, I am Katie Ritter.
And I am Justin Thomas, and this is the Restart Recharge podcast, a podcast by coaches for coaches. We bring you tips and tricks to help you in your everyday work as an instructional technology coach or whatever they call you in your school district.
So hopefully you'll leave this episode with us today feeling a little bit less on your own coaching island.
And we have a special episode today as we have Amanda Delbaso here from Google to talk a little bit about the Google Certified Coach program. So we'll take a look at the origins of the program and look into how the application process is in becoming a Google Certified Coach. We also have Emily Cowan joining us. She has just recently become a Google Certified Coach, so she'll be able to talk about her experiences in the application process.
Yes, ladies, welcome. We are very excited to have both of you here with us today.
Thank you.
Okay. I am going to go ahead and introduce Amanda, give you a little bit more background on Amanda and her work. So Amanda Delbaso is the Senior Program Manager on the Google for Education team. She has a deep expertise in training educators to use technology in impactful ways. She currently leads the Certified Coach program, which empowers instructional coaches to work hand in hand with educators to help achieve teaching and learning goals. In her 12 years at Google, Amanda has managed a series of global products and programs focused on helping K-12 families increase their digital skills and access. During her Google tenure, Amanda has worked in 5 different offices across U.S. and Europe, which I'm super jealous of, Amanda.
Yes.
And outside of work, she enjoys spending time with her family and finding great spots for hiking and picnics. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. And we are also having Emily Cowan join us. Obviously, you have heard of Emily before on our podcast, but in case you have yet to tune into one of those, Emily, prior to her coaching role, she taught 6 years in a middle school language arts and science teacher in Charleston, South Carolina, and Columbus, Ohio. Currently, she is working across multiple districts to support K-12 teachers in the Cincinnati area. She is also providing 100% virtual coaching to a school district in Kentucky. So Emily is also a Google certified educator, trainer, and coach, which is why we'll be listening to what the application process was for you. So welcome in, Emily.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So before we actually jump into the certification process itself and the curriculum as it exists today, Amanda, we would love to hear just a little bit more about the history of the Certified Coach program and sort of kind of how it even came to fruition in the first place.
Great question. I'm so glad you asked because the origin story of the Certified Coach program is one of my favorite stories to tell. And it actually goes back now about 5 years. And really at that point in time, we were looking across the portfolio, if you will, of everything that Google for Education has to offer. And our goal is always to kind of make sure that we're providing the latest and greatest things that can support educators no matter what role they're occupying. So when we were looking across our existing training materials and certification programs, we kept hearing about how great coaches are. So round of applause for everyone on this call.
Yeah.
But what we didn't see when we were looking across the marketplace in terms of things that got offered to coaches was a lot of professional development that was really for coaches. And by that, I mean, not for teachers who are, working with our students, or not for those who are working in professional development settings and working with lots of other teachers, more like assembly style, but really for coaches who are working one-on-one, day in, day out with other teachers. And so that was really the insight that led us to say, hey, what could we do to support this group of superheroes as they're working day in and day out? And what you might not know is that the original pilot project that we did that under was actually called the Dynamic Learning Project. So we were really, really lucky to get to work with about 100 schools spread throughout the US on this very early version of what would now be the coaching curriculum that you see live online. At the time, we were doing it in person. We were flying all over the country to really listen and learn from coaches about what they need and then build to that end. So we did that pilot for about 3 years in a number of different school districts. And the Certified Coach program, as you see it today, is sort of the souped up, if you will, graduated version of that pilot program.
Love it.
Yeah, that is awesome. Flying all across the country. Sounds like that would be a lot going on there, but it's an awesome program that you guys have designed. Was there any specific reason for 3 years kind of being that the mindset?
Good question. I'll say it was a little bit of luck and a little bit of planning in that, we wanted to make sure that anything that we were going to scale and share, if you will, with all coaches as our recommendation for a coaching model was really tried and true. And also we needed a little bit of time to kind of take what we were doing in those more scrappy, if you will, in-person types of environments and think about how to translate that to an online curriculum that still let coaches feel like they were learning, but didn't feel like yet another e-learning that someone is sending you. We're really, really sensitive to that dynamic. So for years 1 and 2, we really focused on the foundations of what is now called our 5-step coaching model. What are the steps within that? Why do we feel like telling a coach and a teacher to first identify, then investigate, select, implement, and then reflect throughout a coaching cycle are really how they're going to get the most benefit, if you will, from a coaching interaction, both as the coachee, the teacher, and as the coach doing this work. And then I would say year 3 was quite a bit around, okay, now we feel like we have a set of strategies and even tools that we are really confident in recommending. We worked really closely with an organization called Digital Promise that did quite a bit of evaluation to sort of prove that out, which I'm happy to talk more about. And again, year 3 was, okay, so how do we put this in a structure that all coaches could really benefit from? And so that was the first year that we had our online curriculum, which now gets updated on a regular basis. But putting that together was a really fun and interesting challenge. And in the curriculum, you'll see lots of references and pictures and quotes from those who did participate in our early program, just to try to really bring that to life.
I love that Google for Education's team saw that need in the market around coaching, in the way that you described that. I know I am kind of on a much smaller individual scale, but kind of living and breathing that right now through my doctoral research is focused on supporting the growth and development of instructional coaches. And there is so little research out there on that topic. Everything is about how high quality professional development includes mentorship and coaches and different things, but very little on the specific needs for those individuals. And I know all of my years, it was a lot of learning through my own trial and error without having a single place to go. So I commend your guys' team so much for being so intimately connected with the industry to recognize that was a need to kind of build on top of the certifications that already fall in line with the Google for Education series. So that's awesome. And kind of leading into that next piece, a lot of times, like I know most of the coaches on our team have or work toward obtaining, now the Google Certified Coach, but also the Certified Trainer program as well, because I know that in our role, we do a lot of both. Can you kind of clarify a little bit of the difference and sort of what differentiates the two certification programs between the coach and the trainer?
Excellent question, and probably one of the most popular questions that we get asked about coach and trainer. So I'm glad you brought that up, Katie. So I would say that the trainer program, which is older, if you will, like the older sibling of the coach program, focuses primarily on equipping teachers to work in those more group-oriented professional settings where they're going to be sharing knowledge, not just sitting down one-on-one with teachers, but really in any number of that is more than one. So the trainer course, if you've taken it, and sort of the activity in the community once you get that badge, typically focuses again on that group-oriented professional development, Whereas the coach curriculum and then the conversation in the coach community, once you do earn the certification, is much more focused on those one-to-one interactions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of folks who, I loved in your introduction how you called this out, Justin, who have some kind of instructional tech coach something in their title, but they might be doing that full-time, they might be doing that part-time, they might be doing that outside of their school day or even aspiring to do it. But it really does come down to, are you having a focused conversation with one individual around a problem of practice that they'd like to tackle, or are you looking to train a number of teachers in a specific area? And again, there's not always a perfect overlap, but those are the distinctions rather that you'll see in the program. That said, we have plenty of folks, like you said, Katie, who have both certifications. We are all friends with one another. You are welcome to go after both. I am obviously biased towards the coach program. I have to pick which one, let's say, to do first. But for that reason, we know a lot of folks are so gifted and wear so many hats and maybe doing both of these things all day long. So first, thank you. I commend you. And second, then hopefully you can see this as having double the resources in your pocket. And depending on which hat you're wearing at which time of the day, one of these programs would probably feel a little bit more authentic to those activities.
Yeah, well, they are completely different skill sets. We do a lot of work on our team too around the two different skill sets that you need with working one-on-one and how to approach things gently and move things along versus how do you keep things engaging when you've got 25 to 30 or more. Hopefully that's narrowing down, but adults in the room. So that's awesome that there are kind of those two pathways that you can go individually or, to eventually get both of them. So that's cool.
It is cool. Someone that's got both of those sitting right here is Emily. Emily, can you talk a little bit? Let's stay on the coach's side here since we have Amanda with us, but a little biased towards it, but I understand why. Let's talk a little bit about that application process for you to become a Google certified coach. What all does that kind of entail for that process?
Yeah, so the first thing to note is that it's really nice, but Google kind of sets everything up very similarly. So you kind of know what to expect and it helps you through the process. So becoming a Google coach, you do have to have that Google Level 1, Google Level 2 educator. So that kind of prepares you for this process. And Amanda can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it says that the curriculum's supposed to take you about 12 and a half hours. And I think that's probably like a best case scenario for someone. As someone who really wanted to dive into the content and make sure that I was really hitting all of those targets, it probably took me quite a bit longer. And that's not even counting for the time that you're actually working with the teacher. So it's kind of set up to be learn it, try it, and then move on. So I would say it definitely takes a little bit longer than that, but that curriculum has the 5-step coaching model, which I'm sure we'll kind of look at a little more in this one, or I know we're coming up with our coaching cycle series, but it talks about building culture and that our role is not just working one-on-one with teachers, but kind of shifting the entire climate in a building and building relationships. It focuses on different coaching strategies. One of them was leveling up your toolkit. So they provide you with so many resources to use and help you build that actual toolkit so you can be successful as a coach where you are right now. And then, of course, our favorite is celebrating successes. So it helps you, find your bright spots and share those out. And then after you finish that curriculum, there is that standard assessment. I felt like this kind of encompassed that 5-step model. It felt pretty broad, and I didn't feel like I was being tricked. The language was very straightforward, and so as long as you've gone through that curriculum, you should be good to go on that assessment piece. Of course, I said it before, but again, they do ask for that evidence of that educator level 1 and level 2. So you should have completed that prior to even starting this curriculum. And then the last piece, not the last piece, but the second to last piece is a portfolio. And this is a piece that I really enjoyed putting together. And it was just 3 artifacts that kind of summed up my work as a coach. So I had to prove my coaching interactions, so working directly with my teachers. I had to provide some data and kind of an analysis of the work that I had done and kind of show some of the growth of my teachers. And then there was a piece asking for the bright spots. So that's where I really got to focus on one scenario that went really well in my coaching curriculum. And then the last piece is the video. If you know me and you're listening, I hate that piece. That piece makes me so nervous. So I know that you are going to ask more about that in a minute, but you do have a very short video component, and that kind of sums up all of the things that you need to do.
Nice. Thank you. Amanda, anything that you would add to Emily's summary of the application process?
Oh, no, that was great. Thank you, Emily. Let's see. I would just maybe reinforce, like Emily said, the assessment portion at the end of the curriculum is definitely not designed to be tricky. It is just designed to be an opportunity for you to show mastery of that curriculum, because we do believe that the curriculum is sort of where the magic happens in terms of what you can learn as a coach about the different strategies that we're recommending, putting them into practice, and then coming back to the curriculum. So since I can't be flying and being with each of you and talking it through live, coaching, if you will, the coaches, then this is our best attempt at getting at that in the curriculum. And then, like Emily said, the portfolio, I feel like sometimes people hear the word portfolio, and if they've maybe done a dissertation like you, Katie, or if they had a bad master's degree experience, they're like, oh my gosh, portfolio, like I have hives already. And truly, it is supposed to just be a representation of things that you will be organically doing in your work as a coach, and certainly prompted throughout the curriculum. So think of it more as a capstone, like something you could tell your partner or your parents or whomever it is, like, hey, I did this super cool thing, rather than another thing on your plate that we're asking for. So hopefully, again, the spirit of this is very much to set everyone up for success and give you an opportunity to show what you've put into practice through this learning experience.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. And Emily, you said it too, that you enjoyed putting the portfolio piece together, because I do think, and Amanda, you kind of hit on it, but I just want to highlight it again for listeners. It really is something that I don't even know necessarily that you might be like pulling screenshots or pulling examples and then maybe elaborating on it, but you're not creating resources from scratch. It truly is something that is, to your point, Amanda, happening organically as you're going through the curriculum, as you're implementing it. So it really isn't this I don't know. I don't even see it as this huge extra side piece. It's like pull these pieces together to share it with the review team so that they can see everything in one spot of what you're already doing.
Yeah, and there is like a little bit of reflection to that, which was nice. So just thinking about all the things that you've accomplished. So it didn't feel burdensome at all. It's exactly like what you said. If you were having a conversation with someone and telling them what you've done.
Nice.
Awesome. And now let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Looking for a program that reaches all teachers in learning new tools to integrate in their lessons? Edu Badges is the answer. Edu is an anytime, anywhere badging program that is designed to take bite-sized tools for instruction and teach teachers how to use them. Edu has received the ISTE Seal of Alignment for educator standards, and each badge in our expanding library is aligned to the ISTE standards and the SAMR model. Learn more about the program that teachers call addicting at forward-edge.net/Edu Badges. Instructional coaches support teachers, students, administrators, and really everyone in the district. In fact, research shows that instructional coaching is one of the most impactful forms of professional development that results in improved teacher instruction and student achievement. But who is supporting the coach? Forward Edge provides multiple year-long mentorship options recommended by the Google for Education Certified Coach program to help you gain the valued support you need as an instructional coach. Visit forward-edge.net to start giving PD to the ultimate PD providers. Welcome back. We're with Amanda Delbaso, and she is talking about the Google Certified Coaching Program. We have Emily Cowan with us as well. And you guys were just talking about kind of how the application process goes. Emily, you had mentioned that you feel it takes a little bit longer than kind of what they've initially said, especially for someone that is really trying to get in depth with the program. I'm curious, Amanda, how did you guys kind of come up with that time frame? Was that part of the initial pilot group?
Good question. Yes, this I would say is based on our experience so far talking to coaches about how long it took them to kind of go through things. So I think, like Emily might have mentioned, it really can depend on the person. Just to kind of break that down, the coach curriculum, if you were to go through the modules again at a average, and I think that's sort of an imperfect word, but let's call it that for lack of a better word, at an average clip, it would take you probably about 15 to 20 hours based on our latest data. Again, that can super vary depending on maybe there's a topic you want to spend a lot more time on, or maybe there's a video suggestion that we send you and then you go down like a rabbit hole of like other videos like it. Again, really can depend, but that's just for the curriculum piece. And again, it is designed to be kind of a learn, do, come back and learn kind of model. And then the recommendation is that you're kind of going through the curriculum over a number of different coaching cycles. Coaching cycles can kind of differ in each school. We recommend an average of like 8 to 10 weeks twice over. So if you're going through 2 coaching cycles, and then going through the curriculum and also kind of gathering your artifacts as a natural extension of all those activities, it typically, not always everyone, will be about 6 months from like the time you open your first module and start to learn all the way to when you feel like, yes, I am like super ready to submit this application and kind of move forward. That's not to say you can't be shorter, not to say that it's longer. We don't necessarily look at exactly how long you have been doing these activities, but it is often reflected in what is actually in the application materials.
Yeah, and thanks for clarifying. And Emily, I can vouch as someone who dots all of her I's, crosses all of her T's. Definitely probably went down some rabbit holes to be very, very thorough, but that's what makes you a great coach, Emily. Emily, and so outside of the curriculum, outside of maybe taking the exam, about how long did it take you to actually compile the application?
You're saying just putting the pieces together to apply?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, that's really hard to calculate. I mean, if you're talking about actually putting the artifacts together, I mean, that was done in a day. It was just, like you said, kind of pulling snapshots, taking a little bit of time to reflect. I wasn't reinventing the wheel. The video, I mean, it was, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a 3-minute video.
Yep.
So if you factor in how many times I had to restart my video just because I hated the way it sounded, that probably took me an entire day. But it's really a quick process to kind of pull those pieces together.
Okay.
They ask for it in a Google form, so you're just kind of linking all of your resources there, uploading your certificates. But just a couple days to pull all that together.
So really and truly, the bulk of the work is spent actually going through the curriculum and implementing it. So just trying to help give listeners an idea. A lot of times I think coaches will set a goal like, hey, winter break, I want to get this application submitted. So just trying to give them an idea. The 6-month time frame is a great time frame, Amanda, to think about from start to finish and actually implementing it. But just trying to give people a good idea of like how long do they maybe realistically need to be in a good spot to submit a quality application.
Yeah, I think that's a really good aspect to look at, as well as you had talked about how many times you had to do a retake. Not putting you on the spot with the video, right? Because it's intimidating to capture your coaching skills on video. As an experienced and successful coach, even some of us don't like to really be on camera. What advice do either of you have if you're looking to get the Google certified coaching aspect regarding that video portion? Any tips or anything?
Okay, I can start, and then
Okay.
I'm sure Emily can add to this. I would say to really anchor it in what you're learning in the curriculum so that you don't feel like you have to start the video from scratch and be your own production assistant, if you will. So for example, really what we ask for in the video is if you could illustrate a specific time that you worked with a teacher, let's say teacher Katie, on whatever it was that her classroom challenge, as we would call it, is. And so we've had coaches even do something like go into the curriculum and grab a screen grab of this graphic that we have all over the curriculum, which shows our 5 coaching model steps: identify, investigate, select, implement, reflect, and have that on the screen next to them while they're talking or printed on a piece of paper or wherever it is. and just say like, hey, my name is Amanda. I worked with teacher Katie. Teacher Katie's challenge was XYZ. In step one, I worked with her to identify what that challenge was and then they're off to the races. And I think sometimes having the structure of making a 3-minute video that actually is just going through kind of like 5 bullet points, if you will, of what happened in real life and pretending like you're, telling someone a story as you would at like the dinner table is a much easier than trying to think, oh my gosh, like I have to kind of fit in everything at once. We know you worked with more than one teacher. I fully trust that part of the process. So just think of this as an illustrative example, if you will, of one specific time. And again, don't feel free like you need to tell me everything that you did in the video. Just that one story is perfectly fine with us.
Amanda, I liked how you kind of referenced it like you're talking to someone at the dinner table, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that I usually give advice to people on our team, I feel like their personality is what makes them so great. And then when they go to submit a video application, they can oftentimes get a little bit stoic and they feel like they have to be incredibly professional and they cannot stutter or say anything wrong. And it's like they lose themselves in the video. And so my advice is always, I've almost always, when someone asks me to review a video for their applications, I say, go back and re-record and let some of your personality come out a little bit. So not to be like off the wall goofy, but I don't know. I think that a lot of times that personality is what makes you such a welcoming coach. So I don't know if you would agree with that advice or disagree. But I always feel like people forget to let their personality come out a little bit.
Oh my gosh, absolutely agree. I think, to be honest, it's the best part of my day when I get to work with our team on reviewing applications, because it puts quite literally faces to names of all the folks that we want to be cheering on and shepherding. So love an opportunity to sort of get to know you. Also, like, guys, life is real. Many times these videos are happening in a classroom between periods or at night when kids are home. So like, we've had dogs in videos, we've had babies run by, like, there is no judgment here. We welcome the full coaching family experience in your video.
Love it. Emily, would you add any tips there?
Well, I will say that you did steal what I was going to say. And that, like, when I go through and I've had Katie like, hey, can you just look at this? It's always, maybe re-record and show some of your personality. So I had written that one of my tips was to treat it like a conversation and show your personality. I know Katie has said, like, don't read from a script, because you can kind of tell, like she's mentioned, I'm pretty detailed, so I would give myself kind of an outline of what I wanted to say, and she could just tell that I was looking like at the notes. So I would say, kind of have a plan, but I liked your idea of actually having that coaching cycle, the 5-step model image up there, because that alone can be your talking points. You don't have to have details written down. That's just a good reminder. And then my other thing would be to pick something that you were really passionate about, or a person that you really enjoyed working with, because that made it so easy to fill the time. And I think, at least for the coaching video, that one I mostly had to re-record because I didn't have enough time. So it was kind of like, okay, how can I shorten this a little bit more, cut a couple seconds off, because I really enjoyed reliving and sharing the work that I did with that person or on that project.
That's nice. That's sweet. You should tell that person you did your video about. Okay, so Emily, tell us a little bit about, now that you do have the certification, how will it impact your work as a coach, or how did it impact? Because you got yours in December, correct, of
Yes.
2020?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you had half a school year. So how did you notice that being impacted in your work?
One of the most beneficial things in going through that program or the course was all of the resources that were provided to me. And so using those, having all of those templates ready to go, it really kind of eased my mind and saved a lot of extra time that I would have been spent kind of creating those resources. So definitely taking advantage of that saved me from reinventing the wheel. It also, I do different things in different districts. So it was very clear on kind of setting up the schedule for coaching cycles and how you can kind of stay on track, because it is so easy to kind of find your way away from that initial goal. And so I found that that curriculum kind of helped me stay on track and set up a schedule for my teachers. And then also there were tons of real life scenarios. So there were times when I'm like, this sounds very familiar. I think I went through this in the curriculum. And so it kind of helped me apply, the ways that they told me to work through that, or, just ideas I had thought about while going through the curriculum were right there in front of me. And so I could put some of those strategies to the test. So it was very realistic to what our job actually is.
Awesome. Love to hear that about something that you're going to invest that much time into.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Amanda, once a coach is certified, how does the coach program continue to provide those opportunities for growth?
Oh my gosh, this is the best part besides the curriculum. Okay, they're both my favorite parts. All right, another good part. So we like to call it a coaching community. So for example, when you complete the curriculum and submit your application, it takes us usually a month, ideally a little less if we're moving quickly, and you get a badge. So the first thing to do is celebrate and plaster that badge all over social media, send it to all the people, celebrate, print it out, put it on a t-shirt, whatever you need to do to kind of feel great about that. And that badge is kind of the entry ticket, if you will, to this community of global coaches who are really there to support each other. So we as a Google for Education team do a whole bunch of things to really try to feed that community. So we do professional development events for and by coaches throughout the year. For example, we'll have speakers come in that manage various coaching tools, which are also in our curriculum, and kind of talk about the latest and greatest with those tools. Or we'll do a special session on managing data as a coach. How do you collect your data, manage it up? How do you prepare for next school year? This year was a lot about navigating COVID. How do we do virtual coaching? What is virtual coaching? How do we get a teacher to sign up for virtual coaching? How do we find our teachers to even tell them to sign up for virtual coaching? All the things. And then among the community members itself, which I can take no credit for, but a lot of pride in, is we have a Google group, if you will, that all of the coaches are a part of. And so you can ping that group and ask them questions, share wins, share frustrations. It's really kind of a for and by the coaches type of feel. So Katie, I think you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, not wanting a coach to feel alone or like they're on an island. And we definitely share in wanting to help coaches feel like they are a part of a community, even if that community isn't people in your building or even people in your district or even people in your country. So that's, I think, a really exciting thing that happens once you are have earned your badge.
Excellent. Yes, and I can vouch for it being a very active community. I think there's always emails going through and coaches supporting one another and kind of those in the moment questions that they might have that might come up even beyond the curriculum. So it is like most, if not all, of the Google for Education certification communities. It is another thriving, very supportive group. So to both of you, top three, you may not necessarily have three if it's condensed into less, but no more than three of your top tips that you would give a coach who is preparing to start this certified coaching journey. And we'll start with Amanda if you're ready.
Okay. What you couldn't see, folks, is that Emily and I were looking at each other.
I know.
Do I want to start? Who should start? Okay. Oh man, 3 tips. I feel like I'm doing my own coaching video right now. Like can't go over, can't go under. I think my first tip, and I hope this doesn't sound too silly, but is just to dive in. Like the curriculum is online. It's there. It's free. It's not behind any kind of fire, paywall, anything. So even if you're curious about it and you're not sure, you're like, Amanda, this is going to be a big school year. I'm not sure I can allocate all 20 hours. Just get started, see how you like it. No harm in trying. And truly, we welcome you to go check it out or encourage others to check it out at any time. So again, just dive in. My second piece would be to, if you can, really try to set yourself up to be in a position where you're digesting a little bit of this material and then testing it out. So we hear from a lot of teachers that they love to do this curriculum over the summer when they maybe have a little bit more brain space than they would have otherwise, and then put that into practice in the school year. Or they'll carve out time over various breaks to kind of crank through a bunch of the curriculum and then put that into practice. So whatever that looks like for you, wherever you are, I would just think about sort of that model where you want to give yourself time to learn and synthesize independently, and then go forth and put that out in the world. And easier said than done, but my last tip is don't stress the application part. I will volunteer myself and others to be available to help you, but truly the application part of this is just intended to be an opportunity where you showcase the cumulative things that you have done along your journey as a coach, both with the Google certification program as well as everything else you're already doing as a coach. So again, don't let that be kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back, if you will. And if you have any questions, our team is here to support you specifically along that part of the process.
Awesome tips. Thank you. Emily.
Man, that's hard to follow. I would say that one of them is probably super basic, but if you are even the slightest bit disorganized, like I can be from time to time, if you're going to start the curriculum, I would create a folder in your Google Drive because, like I said earlier, they give you so many great resources, and I think it's really valuable to make the copies and have a place for them. That way you're not wondering where it is later, because that, it's very easy to get lost. So I would start with organization. My second tip kind of piggybacks off of what Amanda said, and kind of focus on one section at a time. So like she said, whether it's spring break, you dive into a curriculum, like one section of the curriculum, and then when you come back, you kind of implement it. And then the next opportunity where you have some time, you dive into another section. I think chunking it and really taking the time to like feel confident in applying the skills before you move to the next phase. And then I think if you have the option available to you, having some sort of mentor as you work through the curriculum would be a really great piece. I feel very fortunate in that I work with an entire team of coaches, so I have that built in, but I know, and we've said it before, that coaches often are islands. And once you get the coaching curriculum and the certification, that kind of opens a door to connect with other people. But if you have the option while you're working through it, it really would be great to have some sort of mentor.
Awesome tips from you too. I think if I could add one, it might be to put a date for yourself on the calendar, like set that goal, put some dates, put some things on the calendar to kind of help hold yourself accountable, because since it is, which is wonderful, but with it being a free curriculum, it's easy to let it be out of sight, out of mind. So if you can do something like that, or find a coaching buddy to go through it with you so you guys can hold each other accountable, to make sure that you actually do achieve it by when you want to achieve it, whatever that time frame is for you.
Wow, those are some really good tips. Let's stick with our 3 here. Amanda, this one is for you. The best 3 things about working at Google.
Ooh, tough one. Okay. My fun fact is I have been at Google for nearly 13 years. So this is a lot of years to distill into 3 things. Okay. 1, the people, not to be cheesy, but truly, like, many of my best friends outside of work are also my work colleagues, especially on the Google for Education team, where I think we are united in this passion of really wanting to continue to cheer on educators in general, and especially coaches, who, in my opinion, wear the coolest cape. So that's definitely 1. 2 is, okay, in non-COVID times, the food is really good. I was sharing with this incredible podcast crew before we joined that my family is Italian, but I have failed to become a very good cook ever in my life because of Google's food that is provided to me on a daily basis via lunch. So thank you, food.
I can see how that would happen though.
Right?
Yeah.
I need a curriculum on food. Please send me suggestions if anyone has those. I know those exist, but I need to put a date down, Katie, and work towards that. And then I would say 3 is something around like flexibility. So for me, like I mentioned, I love to explore new places. I love to be outside. And what I've really enjoyed about Google is that it's a super global place with a global mindset that has literally allowed me to move. And from a daytime flexibility, sometimes allows me to like get up from my desk and take a walking one-on-one while I'm, stretching my legs. So Those are my best three on the spot, Justin.
Oh,
I'm sure I'm going to think of many more. I'm going to send them to you after this meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I was
I'm
gonna say
excited.
we want to hear more.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna have a follow-up question if you're willing to share. You've been living in different cities all across the world. What are some of the cities that you've been living in working with Google?
Oh
If you're
my
willing to
gosh.
share.
Okay, good question. So let's see. I'm trying to do this sequentially. Cambridge, Massachusetts. So
Okay.
Boston, then Dublin, then New York, then San Francisco, then Mountain View, and I'm actually now in Princeton, New Jersey. Technically back out of the back out of the New York office, but we haven't quite returned to work yet. My favorite would definitely be Dublin, which I mean, was just an incredible experience. It's kind of like the United Nations of Google, where folks from all over Europe, the Middle East, and Africa come to work. And it was just so incredible to be around that many people from all over the place, the diversity of mindset. And I love the idea of speaking more languages than I do. So even just literally getting to sit in a cafe and hear people speaking that many languages was like super inspiring to me.
Oh,
So I know you didn't ask, but there you go, Justin. That was my favorite.
No, that is awesome. I was curious because I knew there was a Google station in Dublin, and I was curious if that was one of the spots you had been in. So
Yeah.
that is awesome. Dublin is a spot I would really like to go to at some point. And it sounds like it is amazing to be there.
Yeah, and I think all of those just made everyone, including myself, a little bit jealous about working at Google. But we know everybody's always wants to know more, like Emily said. But so, Amanda, very last question that we have for you, unless, of course, there's anything else that you wanted to share with us. But in thinking about all of the great experiences and things that you have learned from Google and now getting to work so closely with educators, particularly coaches, what is one major googly thing, for lack of having an exact word, but what is one major googly thing that coaches can take back to implement into their schools?
Ooh, good question. Okay, I hope, again, this is not too cheesy, but I would say an uncomfortably excited mindset. So at Google, it's sort of like a mantra that sometimes people ask, what's your big idea? What's your moonshot idea, if you will, like this 10x kind of concept that makes you uncomfortably excited. Meaning, how can you think big enough that that you can completely transform something in a positive way? But the idea of actually doing it is like I'm really excited about this, but also like, are you really doing this? Like kind of that nervous but fun energy. And I see that a lot in how I think a lot of coaches approach our program. Some of them come and they're completely new to coaching. Others come and they've been coaching forever, but they're sort of joined in this mindset of wanting to do things in a way that they feel like is better for them and more transformative for their teachers. And so we've bonded over this. I think I had said it to a coach once kind of in passing, and they were like, oh, uncomfortably excited. Like, I really like that. So feel free to borrow and or steal with pride. But I think now more than ever, as we navigate, I'm calling it a post-COVID world. I'm not sure if that's like the right term, but whatever, a world that has been influenced by COVID, and so many teachers and schools and districts are thinking about where they go next. There's never been a better time to be uncomfortably excited about, or frankly, a time that we're all being forced to be uncomfortably excited about what the future is. And I really think that coaches are sort of at the forefront of working with their schools and their teachers to make that happen. So that's what I would say.
Oh, I love that so much. I think I can see all of our eyes in the room like, yes, we are going to steal that with pride. So thank you for that uncomfortably excited expression that we will take away. Amanda, before we kind of wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to share with listeners about the curriculum or the program or anything at all to do with the Certified Coach program?
Oh, good question. We covered so much today. I would say stick with my number one tip, which is like, please come one, come all, get started. Feel free to share this with others. I think the only other thing that we didn't talk a ton about, but I just wanted to acknowledge is certainly in the curriculum, is how coaches can work really effectively with their support systems, whether it be a building leader, a system leader, whoever it is, to really make sure that they are supported by those folks and they are continuing to really highlight the importance of coaching work that's happening, because we also hear a lot from coaches that they want to improve for themselves and they want to improve for their teachers, but they need the support, like Emily said, of mentors and those around them. So just know we agree with that. We will do our best to shepherd best practices through the curriculum and the community. And I hope that makes you further excited.
Yes.
It
Awesome.
does.
Well, thank you so much to both Amanda and Emily for joining us. We will link the Certified Coach Program website, curriculum, and application in the show notes for this episode at restartrechargepodcast.com. You can also follow along with a very active community on Twitter, hashtag GoogleEC. Again, that's hashtag GoogleEC. And there's, again, a very active community of folks that can help support you as you enter this journey to becoming a Google certified coach. And then I also want to mention, and just kind of full disclosure, Emily did mention the importance of having that mentor coach through her first couple of years of coaching. Forward Edge does happen to be one of Google's recommended mentor partners for the Certified Coach Program, offering year-long mentorship options for coaches. You can check out those options on our website at forward-edge.net/Google-certified-coach. And we will, of course, link that in the show notes for this as well. So with that, be sure to subscribe to Restart Recharge wherever you listen to podcasts at restartrechargepodcast.com, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at RRCoachCast.
And we're about to hit another school year, so if there's anything that is on your mind, please reach out to us and let us know what these topics are so we can discuss it here on the podcast.
Yes, so press the restart button.
Recharge your coaching batteries and leave feeling equipped and inspired to coach fearlessly with the Restart Recharge podcast.
A Tech Coach Collective. Okay, so everyone say your prayers that we captured everything with the audio. Faux pas. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. I have to take my bracelets off so they aren't like slamming around and
Clanking.
causing all kinds of jingle.